Welcome to Refirement Life, the podcast for anyone navigating life transitions or planning to make life transitions to ensure your next years are your best years. Listen in for insightful, generous, and sometimes humorous conversation. It's time to get fired up with Christine Zamuda and Muge Wood, your hosts for this latest episode of Refirement Life.
Hello and welcome to episode 77. This is Refirement Life with your host, Christine Zamuda and Muge Wood. Say hello, Muge.
Hello, everybody. Can't wait for our conversation today. It's very topical, and I'm just absolutely excited.
Yes. We have a special guest today.
I'd like to welcome Lisa Haynes to Refirement Life.
A little bit about her and her background. After spending 3 decades in corporate America, former CFO, former Chief Diversity Officer, Lisa has built a very needed and desired service in Haynes Executive Solutions. Lisa is a executive coach and has written a book called Retired and Killin It, which of course everyone would like to know more about, as that's the goal that most of us want to achieve post career. So Lisa, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It is great to be here.
Awesome. So let's get into some of the background here. Let's start with your personal story. When did you decide to retire? And, especially given, you were in the C-suite, doing so well in your career, and what was the impetus for making such a big change?
It's interesting. It was sort of a sudden decision, but not really. So I was kind of in a space. I'd been in my job as a CFO for 10 years. It was coming up on a kind of 10-year mark, just trying to figure out what was next. And there was a part of me that felt like, hey, it's a great organization. I'm doing well, but I could probably do something more. I felt like I had really gotten to the place where I had done what I came to do at that role and wasn't really sure where I could go next that would allow me to, really add more value. I kept saying to myself, I have one more good push in me. I have one more chapter, one more level to get to. So I happened to be talking to a transition coach through Athena Alliance, and was telling her, and she said, I have some questions for you. I want you to go away and answer these questions and come back and tell me where you are. There were questions like, what size organization would you want to go to? What do you want to do next? What does your next job look like? All those kind of questions that you think about when you're going to, transition. And as I was going through those questions, I thought, I really don't want to start all over again. I was at an age where I'm kind of like, I don't, the thing, when you start a new job all over again, you've got to start your networks again. You've got to play the politics. You've got to learn the politics. I realized I don't want to do that. And so when I came back to her and she said, so, what have you decided? I said, I'm going to retire. And she said, that is not what I was expecting you to say. But I felt like there was something else I needed to be doing. Like, it wasn't, I want to retire because, I just want to sit home and relax and enjoy the fruits of labor. Well, that's fantastic. I just felt like there was something else I should be doing, and working, getting up, to go to work wasn't it. And so I decided I was going to retire, but I knew that there was something else I was supposed to be doing. And so that was really my drive, was not, I'm going to retire because it's just something to do next. It was, I need to retire from this role because I have some other things that need to be done. And quite frankly, working is getting in the way of that.
Nice. Well, and it's good to listen to your heart. And you had at that point, you really had not like a business plan yet. It was just the feeling, I know I don't want to run up that big hill again, and there's something more for me.
Yeah, I'd always been doing kind of consulting, right? So as an accountant, you're always as a finance person, it's very easy to find some consulting. So I'd
Mhm.
always been doing a little bit of consulting with people. But I didn't, that wasn't because I was working full time and really had two roles. I was the chief diversity inclusion officer and the CFO. So I really didn't have a lot of free time to do that. So I thought, well, I'll retire and I'll do some consulting. And I thought to myself, I'm going to be, I can work as a fractional CFO. That'll be kind of easy work to do. But I had no idea that I was going to go into this direction at all. That was not even a thought in my mind.
Wow. Wow. So you come out of that role, you decide you're going to do what you're doing now. Um, Now, like fast forward, you've been a keynote speaker, you're running your own business, executive coach, still doing some accounting consulting. Like that's a lot on your plate. You've written a book. Um, what's kind of lighting you up now in this next chapter?
So what's interesting about that is moving into this next chapter was a little bit more unplanned. I came into retirement, and I just started doing everything. That was the problem. I didn't have a plan. And so I started taking coaching courses. So I'm taking executive coaching courses, which, as you probably know, is not short. Like it's months worth
Mm-hmm.
of coaching courses. I started taking coaching courses, and then I learned about retirement coaching. So now I enrolled in that program. So I'm taking retirement coaching program. And then it was that really that spurred me into, when we leave jobs, nobody tells us that you lose part of your identity. Nobody tells us that you don't, like, you feel like you've lost purpose. And I think because of that, I started doing a lot of things. And I didn't give myself permission to be retired for a period of time. I had initially told my executive coach I was going to take 6 months off and then figure out what to do, but I didn't give myself permission to take 6 months off. And so as a result, I felt like I should be doing things. And so I
Mm-hmm.
started doing a lot of things. And that's why there's a book within a year. So within the year of retirement, I wrote a book. That's not the plan, right? That's not a good retirement plan. So I felt like I was doing too many things. And so even when I first retired and, maybe a few months in, I created this pie chart because I'm a finance person. And the pie chart had like all the things I'm going to do, within retirement. And then now I am fast forward, I've changed the pie chart. It had way too many things on it. And so I really spend my time now, probably, my pie chart now says 40% of your time be retired. Just be retired, whatever that means. So for me, that's going to the gym. It's been traveling. I love that I've had time to travel and do some things. So it's really 40% doing what I want. And then 30% of it, I'm going to spend doing this because this lights me up. I love talking to people about retiring and retiring well. There are so many people out there who were like me, who didn't have a plan of what I'm going to do. And quite frankly, 30 years is a long time to not have a plan what you're going to do. But that's what retirement is. Retirement isn't, okay, I'm going to, just spend some time. It's a long time. Like there's a long runway for retirement. So just helping people take a look at what do I want to do next? Because I think retirement as defined, even as you define it, retirement, it's changing, right? The definition,
Mm-hmm.
it's not our parents and grandparents' retirement where people retire and then you might go to a senior center or you might, have a group of buddies that you do. That's different today. People want to leave their job and do something, right? They have purpose. They have something to be fulfilled. And so that's what, I want to help people find their fire. What is it that's going to excite you in this next season? And how are you going to go about doing it? How are you going to go after it? And it doesn't have to be something major. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to create a business. For some people, it may be, I'm really passionate about volunteering. And so I just need to
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to get into that space that I want to get into. And so that's really where my passion is. I love helping people who are at this stage or walking into this stage, help them figure out what's next so that they walk in and say, this is fantastic. I don't know why I didn't retire earlier.
Lisa, that's really inspiring. I hear that from a lot of people who eventually find their groove, so to speak, and they say, "Why didn't I retire earlier?" Because life in this chapter is so rewarding, so fulfilling, and I
Yes.
feel completely energized by it. I want to go back to the moment when you made the decision to transition to this next chapter, because I
Hmm.
think that inflection point is really tough and also key to opening up and unlocking the possibilities in the chapter. Meaning, I think, you mentioned you ask a lot of questions to yourself. The honesty, the courage that it takes to walk away and start a new
Right.
chapter is very big. How do you take that step? It is almost like starting something brand new. And to
Yes.
me, it feels like you are walking off the cliff into the unknown.
Muga, in some ways you are. In some ways, you're walking off of a cliff into the unknown. However, most of us actually have an idea or have a passion within us that we know we want to do. And so part of my role is to help people not feel like they're walking off to a cliff and saying, well, okay, I'm not going to be this anymore. And the identity piece is real because that is, you've been doing a job, and whether we like to admit it or not, our jobs are a significant part of our identity. People say, well, it's just a job. It is, but it is part of who you are and who you've become. And so it's really, I like to talk about it as this transition from what to what. And so if you have a to what, where am I going? And you get really excited about the to what, the from what becomes less important. It's not as exciting. It's like, wait, but where I'm going is so exciting. I want to get there. And that's really the key, is to figure out where you're going when you retire, what you're going to be doing next, because that's what drives you. That's what gets you excited about retirement. I think the scary part is when we feel like we're just kind of stepping off the cliff into this black hole of an abyss with nothing in it. But when we step into something else, something new, whether it's, I mean, I just give you an example, people who have stepped out into podcasting, you're already doing it. But there are people who say, well, I've always wanted to do that. They step into it. Now they're really excited about something else, right? Something that lights them up. And I think a big part of it was figuring out what lights me up. My problem was there were so many things lighting me up that I was trying to do all of them. So it took me time to pare them down and figure out, and I still do a little bit of financial consulting. But I'll give you an example. I just knew that I was going to leave and start doing fractional CFO work. No problem. I can do that with my eyes closed. And I took, I did one assignment that was very short, and I thought, I do not want to do this. This feels like a job. And so I scratched that right off my list. I do not want to be a fractional CFO. In case anybody's looking for one, I'm not the one. I didn't want anything that felt like a role. I like financial consulting because I'm in and I'm out. I'm not there to stay. But for a fractional CFO, they're kind of looking for somebody who's going to attend meetings. And I didn't want to do any of that anymore. And so sometimes you have to try it and then figure out it's not for you. I don't want to do this in my retirement. But another part, it is sorting through what are the things, asking the right questions. That coach asked me the right questions about my next role that helped me realize that is really not what I want to do. I don't really want a next role, but I do have some things that I'm passionate about and that I want to do. And it wasn't until getting out of it that I realized this was the thing I was going to be passionate about, because initially it was like, well, I'm just going to do some things to occupy my time. But I did spend some time. So one of the things I like to do now is I enjoy going to the gym because it's kind of a peaceful, it's my space. I have a trainer, and I tell people I don't have a trainer because I don't know how to exercise. I have a trainer because I need the accountability. Somebody who's going to tell me you are or are not doing what you're supposed to do. And so that to me is what a retirement coach does. A retirement coach isn't that you can't do this, can't think on your own, but it's somebody to hold you accountable and to challenge you and to push you beyond where you could. My trainer is always trying to get me to lift heavier. And I'm like, no, I think we're good right here. She's like, nope, I think you can go up 5 pounds. That's what a coach is supposed to do. Tell you, no, I think you can do more than you think you can do. And so coaching is one of those things in there. It's a fairly new practice, the retirement coaching, probably the last 10 years, but there are several retirement coaches out there that you can walk through who take you not just, the financial piece. That's usually we're kind of prepared for that, right? Our jobs prepare us for the financial piece. They match the 401k and all those things, but no one tells you when you leave your job for the last day, you're going to run into an identity issue. You're going to mourn the loss of your job. No one tells you any of those things.
Yeah, that's true. Some of what you're saying resonates with me. Less so on the identity. I had an easier time with that. I think because I was already doing some things that
Right.
were bigger than my career at Microsoft, I felt anyway. But the thing that really resonated with me is just doing so much that first year. I had a friend that it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. She goes, you're failing retirement because you are busier than you ever have been. You look like you're like, always on the go, like you need to relax. And then finally I just kind of settled in and like you, I think pared down and figured out the things that I really wanted to invest time in.
Yes. And that takes a little time to pare it down. Like you, I still talk to my executive coach and she said, "What are you doing?" was her question. And I said, "All the things." And she said, "Yeah, that's exactly what you're not supposed to be doing."
Right.
And now I feel like I've settled into a bit of a rhythm. I'm really focused on this piece and really how to expand Retired and Killin It. So it's not a book. It's kind of a movement for people of when I leave work, when I leave my job, when I leave full time, I want to feel like this next season is even better than the one I left.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about the book since
Yeah.
you opened that door. Tell us a little
Absolutely.
bit about what, readers can expect and what are a couple of the key takeaways.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is the book starts out with, your why. Why are you retiring? So, that's a big thing now. What's your why? And so just a little bit about the why, but addressing the things that will come at you, identity issues, some of the things that will change. Your network changes, your who you're interacting with changes, your purpose may change. Quite frankly, your schedule is the first thing that changes. So really addressing some of those things that are going to change and just being ready for them. And then I created this KILLIN IT formula, which is, it just came, it was the story behind that's pretty interesting because it came like almost as a fluke a little bit. After I retired, I was sat on a panel for my former company at a leadership panel for women. And the moderator said to me, she said, "So tell us a little about retirement, how it's going." I said, "It's only been 3." First I told her, I said, think I was born to retire. And of course, I was like a little tongue in cheek. I said, "It's only been 3 weeks and I am killing it." And it was, that was kind of this joy on my face. But when I left there, I thought to myself, that is a good statement for retirement. I am killing it. And so I took KILLIN IT and I made it an acronym because we love acronyms and we can remember them. And so the KILLIN IT formula the K stands for keep moving, which as most of us know, or some of us will figure out, when you're not working, you move less. That happens whether you're on vacation or wherever you are, you move less. And so it's really important to keep moving, but not just physically, mentally, and socially. You have to continue to move in those areas. The I stands for imagine what's next. And this is where you really get people to start thinking about, we don't stop and ask what's next. We don't stop and think about what do I love to do. So just asking yourself some of those questions, but imagine what's next. And I love taking people through the exercises because imagine what's next is where you get to use your imagination. As kids, we dream. We dream about lots of things. And as adults, we do stop dreaming because the reality has a way of snatching dreams away. And so it's a chance for adults to dream again. The first L stands for laugh a lot, because I think that laughter is a huge, important part of life. But as adults, we don't laugh as much as we should. We take life way too seriously. The second L stands for live for legacy. And so what are you living for? The rest of, you've set a legacy at work. People will remember you by something at the job that you left, but what will they remember you about in life? So what legacy are you living for? The second I stands for ignite your passion. And here, Magga, is where you really start to discover what excites me, right? What is really something that I want to do? What is something that really excites me? And so this is where you find your passion and where you can then move that passion into something else. The N stands for nurture your network. And that is because when you leave your job, those are people that you've worked with and connected with and networked with, but your network changes. It also decreases whether we like it or not. We like to say we're going to go to lunch with these people, once a month. And that turns into once a quarter and turns into, happy holidays. It fizzles out whether we like it or not. But this is really, at this point, you really want to assess your relationships and figure out which ones you want to invest in, because they are going to change and shift. The last I stands for invest in others. So most of us have had careers or have been given much, and who will we reinvest that in? Who are we willing to take the time to help them come along, to help move them along? For some of us, it may be in our own families. For some of us, it may be, people who we've left at that job and they're looking for mentors. And we all know that you can almost sign up for a mentor anywhere, whether it's your alma mater or you can find a place to do mentoring. And the last item is T, which is tell yourself you're killing it every day, even when you don't feel like you are. It's really your own encouragement, because if we're not in the space anymore where people are going to pat us on the back, right? We've been in a job where you get performance reviews that say you're outstanding, or somebody says great job on that project. When you're retired, there is really nobody saying great job. So you have to tell yourself, I'm doing a great job. I am fantastic today. And so the last one is really about encouraging yourself and telling yourself you're killing it. Even on the days that you don't necessarily feel like you are, find something where you are killing it.
That's awesome.
I think that's why, Lisa, that's amazing. I have to listen and post this in front of me in a way that I can process every day. But in terms of the self-positivity you can bring into it, key takeaway, pat yourself, celebrate yourself. That's why Christina and I like to do these podcasts, so we can celebrate, constantly praise each other. But that's such a key element. And what I am wondering is, and it will be interesting in your perspective, to have some kind of guiding principles to help us continue to evolve in this phase. Meaning, I think when we were developing or have been developing our careers, we kind of had a sense of, okay, I want to be an office worker. I want to work with customers. I want to be in a lab. I don't want to travel every week. We have some parameters of what we find fulfilling. And I think in this phase, we will probably continue to discover what lights us up and what doesn't, and what we think it does, it may not. So as an example, I thought I would love to travel 6 weeks and, go around multiple continents. So, and I found out after 2-3 weeks, I'm like, I'm ready to come home. I don't want to be constantly moving like this. I appreciate my home front routine. So what do you think are some maybe things that can help us continually evolve in this phase, because we may need to change what lights us up, and so we don't feel like unenergized or unmotivated.
Yeah, you're so right, Muga, because I like you thought I would want to travel forever. I'm like, I can't wait to, I just want to travel. First of all, flights are long. And so, you want to travel overseas, but flights are long. And you have to recognize that when you get there, I always thought it's great. You get there, you're excited, but you still have to fly back. And the flying back is not as exciting as the flying there. And so I said, maybe once or twice a year, I may do some of those trips, but they're not going to be as much as I thought. I think it's the continually asking yourself the questions that helps you evolve. And so one of the second question, imagine what's next, is evolutionary. It is not a static. I ask myself once. Continuing to ask yourself, what's next? What's next? Stay curious, keep setting new goals. What is it that I want to do? And continuing to, like you said, evaluate, do I like this, right? One of the things that in retirement now is I don't do things I don't want to do. Generally speaking, and I don't mean like nobody wants to go to the dentist. So I don't want to go to the dentist, but I do because I have to. But there are things that now that I would do when I was working because I felt like an obligation, that I no longer have the obligation. I don't do things. I don't want to do that is my attitude. It's not going to bring me joy, and it's not going to make me happy. And so unless it's like a real obligation, I'm learning to say no and be okay with it, that no, you don't want to do that. And so I think as you evolve in retirement, you start to learn the things that bring you peace and bring you stress. And so one of the things I'm big on right now is protecting my peace. Is that going to bring me peace or stress? If it's going to bring me stress, I'm probably not going to do it. And so I try to keep myself from signing up for things that I know I'm not going to do it. A few weeks ago, I signed up for some breakfast thing. It was at 7:30 a.m. or something, and it was in Tampa, which is like 30 minutes from my house, but that's 30 minutes, no traffic. And I thought, what made you sign up for something that was going to put you in rush hour traffic, a 30+ minute commute at 7:30 in the morning? And so, I had to tell myself, stop signing up for things because you think it's the right thing to do, or you think you might want to go. Be real certain that you want to do that before you do. Now, I will get up early. I got up early last week to, take a flight. The flight was at 6 a.m., but I wanted to go where I was going. And so I figured out how to make that happen. But that was something that I really wanted to do, as opposed to something that I'm kind of teetering on. And that might be interesting. The might be interesting has become a different phase for me. It's like, yeah, I might be interested and I probably won't go. So don't sign up. So to your point, it's a continual evolution of asking yourself as you evolve as a person, because in retirement, you will continue to evolve as a person. You'll continue to change. The things that were important to you aren't as important to you anymore. The things that are important to you are working. Shopping is one of those things. I realized you don't need to keep buying clothes that you are not going to wear. I wear a lot of casual clothes and I have a lot of gym clothes now. But reevaluating, it's important to keep reevaluating in retirement what you're enjoying, what you're not enjoying, and do more of what you're enjoying.
Yeah, that makes sense. I love the Killing It formula. I want to I want to keep that close. I loved all of it, and I loved patting yourself on the back. Words have energy, and just the continual evolution of what do I want to achieve and why.
Yeah.
Like, why is this important? I always also say that, like, any progress forward on things that you like or don't like is progress, because it's more information that you have to live a great life, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's keep going. There's so much to cover here. Let's talk about that one big problem that a lot of people do have, and that's identity. So what advice do you have for people who are, maybe just thinking about retirement? They're going to go through this big change. How do you help them settle in and redefine who they are in this next chapter?
Yeah, one of the important things for people to recognize is that, and it sounds weird, but you will mourn the loss of your job. There is a grief process associated with that job and that title. And I say the higher up you were in your organization, the more you feel the identity loss. And so, particularly if you're in C-suite, you have been telling people for quite some time you are the chief something. And now people will ask, as you meet people and they say, what's your name and what do you do, right? And so now you have to figure out what you do. I think that part of it is acknowledge that that job is not part of who you are anymore, but it gives you the chance to redefine who am I. And so you've been that CEO or whatever for the longest time, and that's defined a big part of who you are, but that is not who you are. And so for some of us, it's just rediscovering who we are and what we love to do. We spend so much time at work that now we get to the place where we're just not sure what we love to do anymore. I've asked people, what do you love to do? And they pause. I don't know. Well, because you've never thought about what you love to do. You've not spent a lot of time. And so really spending that time to figure out, what do I love to do? What excites me, right? And so I think that is a big part of it, that we don't spend enough time imagining what's next, dreaming about what we could do, and what really do I love to do. And, golfing may be what you love to do, but you can't spend the next 20, 30 years golfing all day, every day. What other things do I love to do? Rediscover some of those things that you love. Art, maybe. If you're still passionate about what you do, how can you turn that into something? So you were a CEO of a tech company, and I'm making this up. Is there someone else who could use your help, right? Are you willing to take some time to help other small tech companies or other tech CEOs who want to do this. You were in HR, that's a big one. There are people who are starting out with a career in HR, or someone who just stepped into a CHR role, and they could really use somebody who's been there, been through the hoops, jumped through the hoops to help them. So is there somebody in your network who you can help work through this? And so for some people, that's a good transition. I'm not in it, but I can help somebody else who's in it. So it's really about discovering what you love. For somebody, it's like, I just don't want to be bothered with anybody or any of the things that I did, which is fine. But what is it that you do when you're not doing whatever their job is? What is it that you do that makes you happy? So if reading is your thing, people say, I just love to read. What about a book club? You could start a book club or join a book club, right? There are lots of things you could do. You could go into schools and help young people get excited about reading. So it's really about rediscovering and pushing yourself beyond I just can't think of what I love to do. It's just a hard question. And to some degree, it may be a hard question, but it's the question you've got to answer as you walk into this next phase. You've got to figure the things out that really make you move.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think keep asking the question and ultimately acknowledging. And I love the boundary, Lisa, you mentioned about, does it bring me peace? Does it bring
Right.
me joy? And I think ultimately, probably we know these things deep down. Now, whether we acknowledge and honor that
Right.
may take some time, and
Yes.
it's continuous evolution. So as we wind down our time together, which has been phenomenal, what are some key takeaways you want our listeners to walk away with, especially as a retirement coach? What is that experience like for someone? They get your consult in the beginning, and then is it through a certain period of time they check in with you? Maybe we can wrap up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I want to leave with people is retirement is an exciting phase of life. It's not a wind down. And so the idea that you're winding down now that you've left your job, I just want people to erase that thinking. It's not winding down. It's moving to what's next and redefining yourself. And so that's one of the things I would leave. With respect to retirement coaching, it differs by person. There are some people who I've coached one session and they're like, I get it, I'm ready to go. There are other people who we've gone through sessions of exercises and it takes them a little longer. And then we do a check-in once a month. How's it going? Where are you hitting roadblocks? What's next? And so really, retirement coaching, just like executive coaching, it can be tailored to whatever it is that people need. I think for some people, walking through some of the exercises is extremely helpful. Even if you read the book, I have exercises in the book, and someone said to me, they look easy on paper, but I sat down to do this one and it was really difficult for me. So, one of them is, what does a perfect day, perfect week look like? And, the page is blank. You have what does your day look like today, now that you're working, and the page is blank. And the person said, I have no idea where to start with this. What's next? And so that's where retirement coaching can help somebody, again, like a trainer who just guides you through and helps you through the process of, help me figure out what's next. Help me make this exciting. For me, I try to have people do two things. One is create a retirement mission statement. What is, when you retire, what's going to be your mission? Where do you want to go with this? And then a retirement tagline. When people say, what do you do? What's the line that you're going to give them that's so exciting that makes you smile? When people ask me, what do? I say, whatever I want, because I'm retired and killing it. And anytime I say that, it makes me smile. It makes them smile. So what's your tagline? What are you going to tell people that you do? Somebody told me once, a tagline is going to be, I loved it. I'm retired and I dig in the dirt. She loves gardening. I do not like dirt, so that's not for me. For her, it makes her smile to be in her garden. She said, I want to be in my garden at least 2 to 3 hours a day. That's fantastic for her. That's her therapy. That's where she is. We all just have to find out what that thing is and then create our own tagline. So then even on the days where we're not feeling particularly great, or it's, one of those days where you're just feeling down, because we all have them, your tagline makes you smile when you say, you know what, today may be that day, but tomorrow I'm going right back to my tagline, which is, I'm retired and killing it. So I would leave with people, don't allow this idea of retirement, the pictures you see. Even creating my book, people wanted me to put, I got suggestions about, the lawn chairs on the beach, or the hammock and all that. And I'm like, that is not the retirement image that I want people to think about. I want them to think about, what does my retirement look like? Because it's very individual. Everybody's retirement journey will be different, and helping them define it is really, really important.
Wow. I'm also wondering, as I'm sitting here, if this kind of coaching would even help people who are 3 to 5 years out from retirement, right?
Yes,
Because
absolutely.
before you get there, you should be really thinking about
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. Do you see
Yeah,
many people
Such a
doing
good
that,
point.
or are your clients more like, oh, I'm here, I'm stuck?
No, both. I have clients who haven't retired yet, and part of the process, I have a woman I've been talking to regularly. She hasn't retired yet. We've been talking about, what is she going to do when she retires. The job wants to keep her. They want her to stay on as a consultant. And I said, you have to decide how much of your retirement time you're willing to give them, because it's not about money. It's about their security, and then something to do, but how much of your time do you want to give them? And so helping people to define 3 to 5 years out is actually ideal, because that's when we should start thinking about it. It also helps you determine whether it's 3 or 5. And so if you're planning far enough in advance, you can determine, well, you know what, I have a lot that I want to do, so it's 3. Or I'm not quite ready, so it's 5, right? A lot of people, once they get the plan and figure out what they're going to do next, they get so excited, the date pushes forward, because it's not, for them, happens to not be a financial issue. It happens to be a when I'm ready. And so they become ready because they're to what gets really exciting to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. So, wow, you've given us a lot to think about, for sure. As a reminder, any of our listeners can find more of Lisa's content at Retired and Killin It, and it's no G on the killin.
No G.
And or you can even send an email at retiredandkillingit.com. So
Yes.
Lisa Haynes, what a wonderful time we had with you today. And you've given us and our listeners lots to think about. I'm even more inspired, and I've been retired for 2 years now.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm glad. It was wonderful to be here.
That was my takeaway. This chapter can be the best chapter with our wisdom,
Yes.
life experiences. And as you are talking, Lisa, what I took away is like how vibrant and fulfilling this chapter can be. It is not like go sit by the fireplace, prepare to die, right? So thank you for that.
It's the opposite of that.
Yep.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, Lisa, and look forward to staying in touch.
Yes.
To our listeners, until next time.
Thank you for listening. Our hope is to spark a little joy, inspire, and educate our listeners in ways to live an even more meaningful life. If you have reactions to share from what you've heard, please visit our website, refirement.life, to leave a voice message. You may even be featured in a future episode. To keep in touch, subscribe to our podcast, Refirement Life, using the podcast player of your choice. Always remember, you are never too old to set a new goal or to dream a new dream. Thanks again for joining us on this episode. Until next time.